Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited for today's conversation. I'm honored to have with me today Michael Fried, partner at Berkman, Bottger, Newman, and Schein. Michael has practiced exclusively in matrimonial and family law since 1997, representing high net worth individuals through some of the most sensitive and complex divorce and custody matters. Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the first question, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, Michael, you've been in family law since 1997. What drew you to matrimonial and family law?
That's a great question. So I think what really drew me to matrimonial family law is that it's an area that not many people want to do. And when I was getting out of law school, I wanted to specialize in one area of the law. I always thought it was important that, if you have a foot problem, you go to a foot doctor. So if you have an issue dealing with divorce, or maybe you want to do a prenuptial agreement, you go to somebody that has the most experience in that area. So I always thought it was very important to specialize, and again, because we're dealing with high conflict cases, not many people want to do this. So there's really, at least at the time I entered the field of law, it was an area that, especially, you know, men, there wasn't, in terms of men and women, there weren't as many men. There were a lot of women, surprisingly, in the New York area practicing matrimonial law. So when I would enter into a firm, they said, "Oh, it's great we have a male attorney," because I was dealing with firms that had many females. So um, it was just for me, a perfect way of getting my foot in the door through matrimonial law.
Wonderful. Now, over nearly 3 decades, how has your view on what clients need during a divorce evolved?
So it's become over the years, custody is always the biggest issue. When they come into my office, a lot of times they'll say to me, "Look, a dollar here, a dollar there. It's not as important. I want custody. Everything to me is my first priority with my children," and that has, I think, increased over the years. A lot more people are coming in and saying, assets are fine. We deal with assets all the time. It's really dealing with children. That's really the primary issue.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And your work is so important and it's very sensitive also because these are some of the most like complex and sensitive times of anybody's lives. So, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And what point did you realize that handling high net worth complex divorces with significant assets, as you mentioned earlier, potential business interests and financial intricacy, sorry, excuse me, complexity, financial complexity. When did you know what was going to be your niche? And was there a gradual shift or a defining moment that you knew?
So, when I got into the field of matrimonial law, I really jumped in with both feet, and I went into court. Immediately, the people that I worked for, they said, "Look, the best way to learn what you're doing is to actually be in court." And it's always a time that, you're learning, but you have the partners behind you, so if you make a mistake, they're there to help you and to guide you. So I always had that. I had people that trained me, that taught me well, but they also said, "Look, go out there, do the best you can, and learn." And I had the confidence from the beginning that I could do anything, and they were so helpful. So really, from the outset, I was going into court. My first job out of law school was getting orders of protection for battered women, and it was every day going into family court, getting, sometimes wasn't always the best results, but it really taught me how to be to talk on my feet, be work, active, answering questions from a judge, and really trying um, to really learn the area, the field of law. So I was very fortunate to have that opportunity at such a early stage of my career.
Yes, I mean, I know that for family law and matrimonial law, the court, and especially for custody cases, the court is a very important place that you are definitely in. Sometimes even more than, let's say real estate law or other types of law that is practiced. You are in court probably more often than many. Um, and so your company that you work for now, how did you join that?
So, just to step back a moment, when I was just getting out of law school, I worked for a sole practitioner out in Stony Brook, out east on Long Island. I did that for a couple of years, and then just at about around the time I got married, I started working for a firm in New York City. And from there, I worked there until my wife and I had our first child. And I was living on Long Island, and it was really becoming difficult to go back and forth because I wanted to spend time with my children. So I moved out to a firm on Long Island and worked there for about 16 years. So I was able to, it was a good work-life balance because I was able to work close to home and also be there for my children for all their school events. So by the time it was around 2019, my children were grown up. They didn't need me in the house. So I talked to my wife and decided to go back into the city and had a great opportunity with the firm I'm with now, Berkman, Bottger, Newman, and Schein. Started there in 2019, and 6 years later, here I am. It's a great firm. We have offices in New York City, Long Island, Westchester, and we just opened up an office in Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh,
So yeah, so it's been a great experience. What's great about our firm is that we offer three different ways of resolving disputes. Of course, there's one way is through mediation. We also do collaborative law, and then of course the traditional way of litigation, which is what I do. That's what I specialize in, and I handle most of the depositions and trials for the firm.
now on your firm's website, they have an emphasis on listening carefully to each client's unique situation and tailoring a strategy, like you mentioned, the three different ways to, you know, handle their cases. You've mentioned that there's litigation, which you're the main lead there, and then mediation, and you also mentioned collaborative law. Yeah.
That's right.
Um, so how do you maintain a level of personalization at that scale, because you guys are so big, when the firm handles many clients, some with very complex needs?
When a client first steps into our office, we try to get a sense of what they're looking for. There are some clients that'll come to us and say, "Look, I want to try to do this as amicably as possible. Try to do it, we don't have a complex case, and my spouse and I are pretty much on the same page. So we'll try to move them towards mediation or potentially collaborative law." There are other instances when we know that we can't go down the mediation route, and that would be cases where, unfortunately, there's been domestic violence, or that the parties are just so geometrically diverse in terms of where what they're looking for, that it has to go into litigation. So it really goes into a case by case study. It really depends on the personalities of the parties, the complexity of the case, and really their willingness to try to work together. So, but again, the most important part of our firm is that we have flexibility and we give clients options.
Now, also with working with clients, communication is a huge part of what you do also.
Right.
So, because you work with such emotional and financial high stakes situations, with your clients, what is the biggest struggle in the communication route with them?
Well, I think, from the outset, especially in the area of matrimonial law, it's very difficult. They come into my office and they say, well, look, I have these bank accounts, they're my bank accounts. And the hardest thing for them to understand when we're discussing this is that just because it's in their name doesn't mean that they get it at the end of the day. Because we talk about marital property in New York. Marital property is any asset that you acquire from the date you get married up to the start of a divorce action. But what most people don't know is that title to these assets are is really irrelevant. So you can maintain an asset in your own name, a bank account, but if it was acquired during the marriage, it's a marital asset. So it's very that in terms of the communication, we're always discussing the facts to the law. And when people hear that their asset or their bank account that they've had during the marriage and their spouse never had access to it is actually going to go 50-50, that really blows their mind. They don't understand that. But it's so important though to always communicate with your client, explain to them what the law is, because look, they're going through it for the first time. And it's a very emotional time. And they're listening, but they're not listening. So we always try to reinforce through communication what we're trying to get across and what we're trying to do for the client.
Now, looking at the client's journey, from acquisition to like the intake and getting all the documents, getting with them, working with the attorney, all that. What does it look like at your firm? What are the pipelines or uh, what is the pipeline that the clients go through when coming into your business? How does it go from the very beginning of getting the first client to the very end when it's finished? What does that look like?
So when we first have a client come in for consultation, they meet with myself, and a lot of times what I do since as a partner of the firm, we work on a two attorney system. So I'll work on a case with an associate, usually at a lesser rate because the associate doesn't have as many years of experience. Not to say that they can't do the job, but they a lot of times they'll come to see, client will come to see me first. They'll be recommended to me. I'm the older one. I have the little more gray hair. I will explain to them the case, but ultimately, I will have them working with one of my associates, which is important because while I'm still working on the case, I bill at a higher rate. So I'm looking at it more in terms of the big picture, where I will handle the negotiations, I'll handle the court appearances, going into court, whereas my associate, who's still excellent, is billing at a lesser rate and doing a lot of the legwork on the case, working on statements of net worth with the clients, doing the day-to-day workings of the case, which allow me the time to look in terms of the big picture of the case. How can I get this case from beginning to end? How do I get it to trial? How do I get it to settlement? So we work two attorneys on a case. The client knows that from the outset, and that's important as well because if for some reason I'm in on another case, I'm out of the office, I'm in court, the associate knows everything about the case, sometimes even more than I do, and the client will be able to talk to that associate instead of just talking to a receptionist. They'll be able to work together on the case, and vice versa. Sometimes the associate is not available. I'm there, so it's always better to have two attorneys working on the case. So we handle it through that, and that's how we go from beginning to end on a case.
Amazing. Now, during this time this pipeline, have you noticed any recurring patterns that you're using traditional tools or documents or workflows that fall short, especially when translating financial disclosures into legal, equitable distribution frameworks? Have there been any bottlenecks that you've noticed?
Well, I don't know about bottlenecks, but one of the most common forms that we use in our daily work is what's called a statement of net worth. And every client that I have, whether the case goes to trial or it gets settled, every client will prepare a sworn statement of net worth. And what it does is it lists expenses on a monthly basis, income, assets, and liabilities. And the courts require it. And as an attorney, a matrimonial attorney, I wouldn't even sit down with the other side unless and until we exchange statements of net worth. Because, in divorce, disclosure is an open book. We get to see everything from beginning to end. So that's the most important document. It's the most crucial document that a litigant is going to prepare in the case because it's a sworn document. So many times it's used at depositions and trials in order to impeach the credibility of the witness. So when we prepare statements of net worth, it has to be done perfectly. Everybody knows that in our office. We put all of our time and attention to it. Now, it's difficult for most clients because, and I'll tell you, even me, as forget the fact that I'm a matrimonial lawyer, if I wanted to do a statement of net worth on my own for my own personal life, I can never do it. Why? Because my wife handles all the finances. So of course anybody, and you could be, a very smart individual, but if you don't handle the finances, it's extremely difficult. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll be on the phone with the accountant, with the client's accountant, or other financial professional to assist in doing this because it is mandatory if you go to court, but it's also necessary if you never step foot in a courtroom.
Amazing. Now, with all the document preparation, are there any tools that you use to help with the clients that implement, like, takes all the documents that they have and basically summarizes it? Or what kind of technology are you using to help your firm?
Well, in terms of collecting data and everything like that for a statement of net worth, we still are pretty old school with using the form itself. If you're talking about AI, we don't do that for a statement of net worth. And in terms of AI, we're just we have now a personalized AI platform that we're using called Harvey AI, which was actually named after Harvey from Suits. Um, so and I'm still learning it. I mean, I think at this point in my career, the younger associates know it much better than I do. So a lot of times I'm learning from them. And it's necessary and it's important. It's just that you have to be very careful. I always say it's like, using AI is important. It's just like having a first year associate working for you where you need to make sure you need to be mindful of the fact that you have to review everything from AI that AI gives you because sometimes AI wants to please you and give any facts or I mean everybody knows about the case a couple of years ago where it was in New York where a an attorney, I don't think it was a divorce, but an attorney in New York did a brief and included cases from AI that were fictitious. So we're always cognizant of the fact that we have to make sure that whatever we get from AI is double and triple checked. And look, I'm sure that in the next 5 years, AI is going to control everything, and we're going to, and it's going to be, there'll be less bugs than what there are now. We we use it a lot for research. We also do it a bit in discovery as well to help. And a lot of times, I'll just throw a concept or an idea into like ChatGPT because that's what I have on my phone, and it's a great tool. It's really helpful. And even when I was a family law professor at Touro Law School, and I hope I could say this. A lot of times I would start my lectures like I would throw into AI like some examples, some ideas, and I was able to then use that in my lectures. So it's the newest form of technology that we're using. It's still a work in progress, I would say, but that's how we're using it. I'm sure we're going to use it more in the future.
Yes, yes. And you were talking about the case of like AI hallucinates, sorry, excuse me, oh my gosh, I can't
I'll tell
pronounce
you,
that word.
hallucinations.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, yes, and that also brings up a very important concept of human in the loop when talking about AI and possibly the future. We've talked to another lawyer who is looking ahead. Actually, an IP attorney who uses AI and has developed different AI softwares that he uses personally. Um, but the concept of human in the loop, it changes the time that attorneys are spending on actually writing the documents and actually doing all the actual administrative work, and more they're spending time on reviewing and making sure that whatever the AI has developed or created for you, that it's correct and we aren't dealing with hallucination. Yes. So now back to your workflow. Internal workflows can be very complicated, and sometimes there are pain points in managing data, coordinating with external experts, and ensuring responsiveness to clients. Or is there something else that you have noticed that is a pain point for your firm specifically?
Talking about workflow, we actually in our firm, because we're 30 attorneys in our firm.
Wow.
We're I would say in New York State, we're one of the largest solely matrimonial law firms. And so we have actually our own workflow system. We have one person that is really the point person on workflow. So if we get somebody comes in and that they want from the internet, they want to meet with a partner, the workflow person will check in to see which partners are available. So we also, if there's, let's say I get retained on a prenuptial agreement. And it's the kind of case where I really just want an associate to work on the case because it's really not a case that I can, if I bill it, it would be going beyond what the retainer is. I want to keep the fees at a reasonable level, so I want an associate there. So I'll have my the person handling workflow. I'll say I need an associate to handle this prenuptial agreement. Can you find me somebody? And she'll ask everybody, and she'll come up with somebody. At the beginning of the week, she'll email everybody and ask about how busy they are. So then we'll get a sense of who can take on work and who can take on work. And it really comes down to, in a firm, you have to be as organized as possible. And at our firm, we have a very organized system of handling workflow. And we also have workflow when it comes to our assistants. So that a lot of times, if we have to get out of an urgent motion and we need somebody to help on in terms of staff, we have one of our senior associates is in charge of workflow for the staff. So they'll let us know, okay, you can have so and so can handle the motion, or maybe it's a large discovery indexing. So and again, organization is everything in terms of your work product, um, in terms of preparation. Um, Organization is key, and its organization is really, in terms of workflow, essential.
Absolutely. I mean, that is absolutely essential. Now, changing gears a little bit, I saw that you host a short web show, 5 Minutes with Freed. So, you also write articles, right?
Yes,
And you've been on previous podcasts.
I've been on several, yes.
Yes. So, could you talk about your experiences with those?
Sure. So 5 Minutes with Freed is basically a web show, and it is an infomercial for the people that I interview. And I've done now 243 episodes.
Wow.
We began really at the beginning of COVID. It's actually by this coming January of 26, it'll be 5 years. So we're going to have a special 5 years with Freed program, but thank you. So what I've tried to do, because I do a lot of networking, I try to, when we had COVID, when we couldn't get out in the world, I wanted to do something where I was still able to do what I would normally do at a networking meeting. So like when I go to a networking meeting, if I were, if I met you for the first time, I would ask you, what do you do? That would be my first question. You would tell me what you do. I say, okay, well, you know that I'm a matrimonial and family law attorney. When would my clients most often require your services? So that second question really, when I would ask that, I want to know, is there a synergy between us? Is there something, can I help you? Can you help me? Right? And then I would ask, what are the challenges that you face in your area of work? So that now I'm getting a sense of what you do and understanding, is there ways that I can help you with those challenges? And then, of course, I would want, no, if we were in person, I'd ask you for your card. But on the show, I say, what's the best way for a prospective client or other professional to contact you? So that would then give the person the opportunity to give that information. And then I always end my program on a high note with the question of the week, which for the 243 episodes, practically every episode has been a different question. And it's a hypothetical, something like, you're on a deserted island, you could only bring three things with you. What would you bring and why? Something like that. And the best part about the show itself is that I've been working with my son. He's been my producer, so he's at this very moment, he is a weekend anchor up in Binghamton, New York. But when we started the show 5 years ago, he was still in high school. He was a senior in high school, and when he was in high school, he specialized in broadcasting, and then he went to West Virginia University where he majored in broadcasting, and now he's a big shot weekend anchor. So he's been my producer from day one. He came up with the intro music, the outro. He does my editing. So if I tell him, because I try to keep it between 5 and 6 minutes, and the reason I do that is because people's attention spans don't last so long. So I've been, 5 to 6 minutes. It gets there, it gets the point across, and people enjoy it. And a lot of times, when I did write articles in the past, but I've noticed through the last 5, 6 years, people want to look at video. They want to see, especially with clients. They want to see who they're going to be meeting at on their first consultation with you. So they don't just want to see your face or hear. They want to hear your voice. They want to see your face. They want to see how you interact on screen. So all of that put together really was the genesis of 5 Minutes with Freed, and we even had for the 100th episode, we ended up having a party where I brought back all my former guests, and it turned into a great networking party. I don't know if we're going to do it for 250, but it's been I've gotten business from it. I've gotten business for the people that I've interviewed as well. People have had speaking engagements because they saw the show. So it's been a great ride. My wife only thought I was going to do maybe 5 episodes, and here we are now, 250 episodes later, and it's still running strong. So it's been fun. I can basically do it in my sleep now because I've done so many. But I really enjoy it because it really forces me to meet new people and also to stay in contact with them because I'm talking to them after the interview's over. We speak, and then when the interview is ready to be, it airs on my LinkedIn page. So if you go and you type in Michael Fried and Berkman, Bottger, Newman, Schein, to make sure you have the right person. When you go onto my LinkedIn every Tuesday morning, I put on a new episode. So I have that plus my Facebook 5 Minutes with Free group. I replay that same episode 4 weeks later. And it's also on my YouTube channel. So I usually get anywhere between 1,500 and 2,500 views an episode. And it's really gotten some great exposure and I enjoy it. So I'm glad I did it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is absolutely truly amazing. I think, do you do this more for your own entertainment, or do you also use it as like, almost like advertising for your company also?
Again, it wasn't really for me where I was looking for clients out of it. It was more about networking because, again, I do a lot of networking. So I wanted to meet a lot of different people. And when I network, I do it for a specific purpose. I'm building out, my group of trusted professionals. So I know that there's people that if I need an estate attorney in New York City, there's somebody I call on. If I need an estate attorney on Long Island, there's somebody I call on. So by doing the show and really, I pick people that I really think could help me with my network. It's been great in that respect that I basically tell people, look on my YouTube channel, look at all the people I've interviewed. I would trust any of those people with, any type of legal, professional, financial issue that they may have. So it's really helped me personally. It really wasn't for business, but it's actually helped my business because people recognize me from that. I mean, I guess I'm becoming more of a like a public figure, which is weird, but people have I've gone to a couple of events and they're like, wait a second, you're Michael Fried from 5 Minutes with Fried. I guess I am. Uh, so it's been very helpful from a business standpoint, even though that really wasn't the initial intention.
Amazing. Now, let's have the final question that is kind of like one of your final questions.
Okay.
If you had a magic wand
Hmm.
and could instantly fix one internal limitation or workflow bottleneck with technology, what would you automate and why?
That's a great question. And usually I'm on the other end of it where I'm waiting for the answer. So I have to think. So a lot of times we have issues with our program our document program. I'm one of the worst when it comes to this, where I won't state the name of the company, but we have a company that does our document retrieval, and I've always found issues with the way it's organized, and we've spoken to staff about it, and we've had meetings about it, and I usually save my. I get yelled at by everybody in my firm. I save my documents on my desktop. And they're like, well, why? Because it's easy, because I'm comfortable with it. But we do have, um, and it is a great program, but I don't have the pay. If I had more patience, I think I would be better. But I'm 55 years old, and I've lost a little bit of patience over the years. When I was much younger, I was really into those things, but now I just want to do the work, get the result, and get out. I'm not as concerned about, how where it's pulled from, but I guess that would be the one, the document retrieval programs. I think if they could be done in a much more streamlined way, I would like that. But I guess that would be my answer.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and your experience. It was absolutely incredibly valuable, and I really appreciate your time and openness. Thank you so much for being on.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Alrighty. Thank you.